G'day watchers, welcome back to the channel and to this video where, I am going to take a look at this GINAULT watch today, which I unboxed a little while back, and this seems to be a little bit of a weighted review. So without further ado, I'm going to get on with reviewing this particular watch. So, you've seen the case before, and I'm just going to open it and take it out of the wrapping or the seated cushion here. And right, again, nice faux leather box, as good as many watches around this price range, around the $1,000 price range. So, you've seen that earlier. I've explained a little bit of it. So I'm just going to put that aside and take a look at the watch specifically. So here we have the GINAULT Ocean Rover. This is model number 181270 GSLN. And GSL, as far as I can gather from the website, is gold sand lume, and N for noir, meaning the noir bezel, as opposed to the blue bezel, which is the other version they have. So for those who are not directly familiar with GINAULT, that is a French name, but this is an American-based micro watch brand. As I understand it, they released a BM1, their base model 1, about 5 years ago. That was what they described as a more sterile Rolex Submariner homage with an ETA movement, and that's no longer in production. And they talked about how ETA has stopped supplying movements as easily to companies outside of the Swatch group, and so they've kind of discontinued that line, and took quite a long time before they came up with this version, which came out earlier this year to a lot of waves in the horology world. There has been some controversy, if you've caught up with it on the boards, about exactly where this is made and all that. I won't go into too much detail. You can read about it and check out the blog entries, and particularly a lot of discussion on what you seek if you wish. So this watch specifically has a retail of $1,399, $1,399. It is the date version. They do have no date versions for $1,299. So you're looking at around the $1,300 to $1,400 price mark realistically for this piece. Initially, they did have some discounts, substantial discounts for reviewers, but as I understand it, that's no longer the case, and I don't see any specific discount on the website. So that is the going price. You can't really get this any other way directly. You can get this secondhand, of course. So in here, the movement is GINAULT caliber, what they call 7275. It is an ETA 2824-2 clone. What they have come out and said is that all the parts are machined and made in the US, apart from the two springs, that is the mainspring and the hairspring, the jewels, the 25 jewels in the watch, and the shock absorber, which they had to use a Chinese version rather than a Swiss version. Really, apart from those parts, they have said that everything else is made in the US, and definitely they say that it is all assembled in the US. It is rhodium copper alloy gears. They claim that that is a custom alloy that they have made for the gears to make it more resilient, and they use Nivarox for the springs. 28,800 beats per hour, of course, with the ETA clone. 25 joules as mentioned, 40-hour power reserve. This one actually tested to be more like 42 hours. As with the ETA movement, it hacks, it winds manually if you want, and it does have a quick set date displayed at the window at the typical 3 o'clock position on a black disc in this case. What is remarkable about what GINAULT do with their movements is that they have regulated it over 6 weeks, and that equates to over 1,000 hours, just a smidgen over 1,000 hours. Is that equivalent to the GLC, the Jaeger-LeCoultre 1,000-hour master control? Well, not really, because the master control, as I understand it, also tests thermal variation, shock resistance, as well as water resistance, amongst other things. So as far as I understand, the GINAULT regulation hasn't actually stated that they test those things, so they probably haven't, but that is remarkable. And I showed this briefly before, but what you have here is actually a, I guess, a summary of the regulation that they have done. You can see there different positions. X is the average variance, and they work hard to get the actual daily error as close to zero as possible. And then over here you have the actual power reserve tested result, which is 42 hours. In my experience, this of course doesn't quite run plus or minus zero. This one is actually running about -2 seconds per day. Very, very satisfactory in terms of performance in my hands so far. The case is pure Rolex sub homage, the 5-digit sub homage, 16610 for the model, 40mm 316L steel. It measures 14 millimeters thick to the top of the sapphire dome there, with 20mm lugs, of course, and a lug to lug width of 48 millimeters. They've said that the case is 100% US made, so all the case metal, the bezel, all that is made in the US is the stated fact there. The case is brushed on the top and transitions, of course, to polished sides. Okay, and that's the same for the bracelet that we'll move on to, right? Brushed on the top and polished sides. It is inverse for the bezel, so the bezel has I'm not sure if I can show this very easily, but it is polished surface on the top there with brushing on the side surface of the bezel. That might be difficult for that to translate onto the camera there. Right, the dial, they do talk a little bit about the dial there. It's a enamel dial, and it really is kind of gorgeous in terms of the reflection, similar to my Seamaster. And they say it's made by a UK master dial maker who used to make for Swiss watches. So, I think perhaps some of the quality does translate, to the dial that they have chosen to apply on this watch. The markers are, of course, sub-style markers, applied markers. They do say that they are all forged and filled with a special lume, and a gold sand lume, which they say they had to travel far and wide to grab. It's not made by a Swiss Tritech company. It's not, the Super Luminova company. It's something different. And certainly in my hands, it performs very well. It's really nearly as good as Super Luminova. The initial burst is really quite as good. I think after 6 hours in the dark, I think Super Luminova still edges ahead, but the initial burst is definitely excellent. You've seen the screw-in case back there, right? Rolex style plain at the middle, but it does have writing around the side, GINAULT, stainless steel, etc. Might be a bit difficult to see on the camera there. Okay, so Rolex style screw-in case back with screw-in crown gives 300 meters water resistance. They do say that it probably goes beyond that, but that's what they have definitely tested it to. Now the crystal you've seen on the side, hopefully, it's nicely domed, which means that it doesn't have a high reflection point. They've chosen to put a domed sapphire crystal here. The bezel is 120 click, of course, unidirectional. Rolex style, again, markings, which are very much homaging the Rolex sub, but it is aluminium, it's not ceramic. That's what it's made of. Now, the bracelet. The bracelet, to start with, of course, it's got solid end links, right? 316L steel, but it does have a screw adjustment, right? You can see it right there, and it does have a very, very nice clasp. They've said that this bracelet's machined in the Far East, which to me means China, but it's just excellent. I mean, if you look at, hopefully this is translating here, but it's solid, and it really is very much like the modern Rolex clasps with, I've showed this before, glide lock. It does have that glide lock mechanism there for micro adjustment on the fly as you go day by day. You can do it whenever your wrist feels a bit tight or loose, and that's something I find to be outstanding. I've really enjoyed having this clasp. It's remarkable that they've managed to do this. This blows away all the other Rolex homages that I've ever touched on this channel. Okay, so what have I enjoyed about this watch? You know, how can I talk about this very easily? It's fantastic quality. Yes, you pay for it, but the quality really is superlative compared to, you know, particularly Invicta, should I even mention that? You know, a lot of the Seikos that I've touched, the Steinhardts, I think the finishing is, you know, at least a hair, if not more than a hair, on top of all of those brands. It's really quite well done. You know, the detail that they have paid to this watch, you know, it's really quite impressive. I think it's a very, very thoughtful Rolex Submariner homage. It's really one of the best executed ones I've seen yet, and they've picked some deviations, right? You can see, but I think they've picked it well. So, you know, the fact that they've gone for the dome rather than the flat sapphire, they've gotten rid of the Cyclops. I've never been a big fan of Cyclops. They've gone with a black date disc. They've gone with a different type of lume, which, you know, really has a bit of a, I guess, a natural patina already. They've gone for different hands. They've gone really the vintage sub style hands rather than Mercedes hands. I think all of the different things that they've chosen to apply is quite possibly an improvement. You know, you know, I couldn't have picked this better myself if I chose to, you know, pick some differences from a Rolex sub. And then, you know, of course, you know, I've gushed about this enough. This is excellent. This bracelet clasp is just, you know, it's short of things like my Seamaster. This is really one of the best clasps I have in my collection at the moment. Okay, what's not so good? Well, you know, the obvious things are the bezel, right? It's aluminium. Okay, at this price point, you're competing against many watches, and all of them, or most of them, will have ceramic by now, and so that's a bit of a chink in the armor. I think the wording is just a little bit odd, and you would have seen this in pictures, right? Under GINAULT at the top of the dial there, it says kinetic continuous. It's kind of like, what in the world does that mean? I guess they're trying to say that it is automatic winding and it is perpetual movement, like oyster perpetual, but you know, people don't use those words as convention, so that's just a bit weird when people read that. And then at the bottom, I'll just try to move that hand out of the way there. Okay, so yeah, Ocean Rover, fine, right? 300 meters, you can see there. And then under there, it says submersible maritime, right? So maritime, fine, you know, they're saying that it's to do with the sea. Yes, this is a dive watch, but submersible, you know, that's a term that is used to describe vehicles, you know, submersible, small ocean-going submarines. So that's, again, an odd choice. Chronometer, fine, right? It is a chronometer. Grade watch, it's not chronometer certified, right? But this watch is not made in Switzerland. So as I understand it, you are allowed to use that term outside of Switzerland. If you were Swiss made, you could only use that term if you were COSC certified. So, you know, fair enough. I think the performance certainly is up to that type of standard that they've gone for. You know, on the website, I guess another con is the marketing hyperbole. I'll let you read through their blog and their wordings. I think it could do with a bit of proof texting. Some of the way that it's written, you know, has been open to criticism. That's something that people have picked on. And then lastly, of course, the price, right? $13.99 for this watch, $12.99 for the no date. You are competing against some serious stuff, you know, Oris, you know, I guess Tag Heuer, if you're interested in that. There's so many, Rado, Longines, I guess, all around this price point, the Swiss type of entry level, or I guess even slightly above entry level. That's tight. That is a very, very difficult place to compete. I hope they do very well. I wish them all the best, but you know, it's very difficult to go up against some of these ones, and I would be very interested if anybody knows how GINAULT as a company is actually doing. You know, that's really a fascinating slice of the market, segment of the market that they've gone for. But really, I think this is one of the best, if not the best, sub homages out there. Some people have come out and said that. I don't know, because I don't know all the sub homages, but certainly this is the best one that I've had my hands on. So guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. I'm learning new things about horology all the time, and I share it right here on the channel. Always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Lastly, before I go, I'm going to give you a wrist shot because I haven't done that yet. And there we have it, the GINAULT Ocean Rover on the wrist. Guys, thank you for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.